business to go to another level. You must try to learn and hear something new. So make the change today. So don't procrastinate and see your business grow and change. So check out Testing Results, yeah, with Tony Harris Taylor. Tony Harris Taylor. Testing Results, oh yeah, with Tony Harris Taylor. Yeah.
Welcome to the Drastic Franchise Connector Show. My name is Tony Harris Taylor. I am your hostess with the mostest. I'm the CEO and founder of Drastic Results Marketing and Sales Coaching, where I work with Zors to teach their Zs how to network. I'm also a franchisee with Network in Action, where we bring business owners together to build relationships that last a lifetime. I am the executive director and visionary of Multicultural Franchise Connectors, and I am a franchise consultant with Drastic Franchise Matchmakers. Phew, I'm tired just saying all of that. Bottom line is, I'm all in on franchising, and I'm your franchise success partner. Welcome to today's show. So today's show is going to be very interesting because our guest went from corporate, it's a husband and wife, went from corporate to franchising. The wife went from housewife to franchising, house mom to franchising. So they're going to share their story, but let's talk about that journey from corporate to franchising. So I recognize there are, and I'm working with clients right now who are looking at buying a franchise to be able to go from their corporate jobs or their government jobs over to franchising. And I really admire them because they are taking the path of least resistance. Now, let's be clear, entrepreneurship ain't for punks, period. Point blank, full stop. Whether you are a startup or buying a franchise, it's not the easiest choice you could make. It's fulfilling, it's rewarding, it's financially rewarding once you get it, but it's not the easiest choice. And so to have the right mindset to go from corporate paycheck every 2 weeks, benefits, over to franchising, which is no guarantees, it's a drastic step. And I am working with clients to help them to understand the brevity of the step that they are making. So we're going to hear from our guest, Josh. We're going to hear from him around the mindset of why he decided to give up the comfort of a paycheck and benefits to moving over to franchising. And what does that look like for their future? And they're relatively new, so you're actually going to hear about their journey. But I want to say, if you are considering leaving corporate, you're sick of being passed over for promotions, somebody else dictating your worth. And then also, if you've been laid off or pre-retirement, franchising is a great way, a wonderful way to start your own business. You are in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And I would invite you to consider listening to their story, taking some good advice, and then reach out to me and let me help you. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with my guests, Josh and Emma Barber. We're back with my guests, Josh and Emma Barber. Welcome to my show.
Thank you very much. We're glad to be here.
So I met them through LinkedIn. So let's just talk about that because it's a marketing strategy and tactic that I use to meet new people. So I sent them a message on LinkedIn Messenger, and from there, they actually responded. We hopped on a one-to-one that first date, and I liked them. I really liked their accent, really. And I invited them to show up here because I felt like you all could learn from their story. So thank you so much for accepting this random LinkedIn request and following through. And who knows where this is going to lead.
Exactly.
Okay, so we'll start with you, Josh. So let's hear a little bit about your background and then also how you got to franchising.
So this is going to be longer than most because the beginning is important. I left school very young. I left school at 16, which was legal back in the UK, which is where I'm from originally, from London. Many, many years ago was when I left school. So we're not going to go into that because that's slightly embarrassing because that's forever ago. And then got a job in hospitality and catering and worked my way up into being a chef. And I know that working in any hospitality job is grueling, doesn't pay particularly well. The hours are not very social, and Aya had just discovered that she was pregnant with our first child, and I had the option of staying and doubling down on being a chef, or rethinking my life and just trying to go in a different direction. And I'm usually part of least resistance, so I thought, I know what I'll do is I'll do IT jobs because I've always liked computers. I'm still am. I'm in my mid-40s, a video game nerd. I'm that guy. I belong inside. So I got a job in IT, and I loved it. I worked very, very hard to make sure that I could be successful, made some of the right decisions at the right times, and made my way up the corporate ladder, and then ended up running IT companies on both sides of the Atlantic, in the UK and in the US, for a few years. Moved to the US as part of that role. Loved that job. And then that company did a restructuring and split the US and the UK offices up. And I'd spent 5 or 6 years trying to get it all to work in unison along with an Australia unit. So it left a very sour taste in my mouth. So the job opportunity opened up with a company in New York to do the same thing on a larger scale. So I jumped at that, and I was with that company for 7 years. And franchising, at no point in this, to this point, I still think franchising is McDonald's. It's a fairly common misconception, right? Everyone is like McDonald's that's a franchise.
Correct.
So in December of last year, I was informed that I was no longer required and I was being outsourced to India, which sadly I'd done to a number of other people in my life. And this time it was me. So for 2 weeks, I felt terrified and thought, I've got to get back in. And the beginning of January is never a good time to be looking for work for most industries. Then on week 3, again, similar to how we connected, I got a random thing on LinkedIn saying, have you thought about franchising? I thought, you know what? I've got nothing to do at the moment because I can't get an interview. I'll talk to them. And it was one of those, sure, let's do half an hour and see if there's a little spark in there for me to run off on with my own. And there was. It was kind of like, well, that doesn't seem like a really bad idea anymore. And then a really not very bad idea became this is a really good idea very, very quickly. And then I was working with a franchise broker, if you like. I'm trying to think of a better name for them than that. But and he said, there's 3 options. I think these would all suit you. And Patrice and Associates was one. And I haven't done recruiting on a very large scale. I've done recruiting as part of my exec career in IT, but never very direct headhunting. I've usually had people do it for me. But the way it was, in quote marks, sold to me is it's a business in a box. And thank goodness it really is a business in a box. I have to do very little thinking on my own. I've got contracts written for me. I've got methodologies. I've got all of the IT systems in place. And the support, I can only speak for Patrice and Associates, the support at Patrice is fantastic. If I sneeze, I can get someone to come running to my aid. And it's a big company. We've got a number of franchisees. But our corporate office knows us by name. We've met the CEO in person. It's one of those decisions that I'm sure you hear, and it's very, very cliche. I wish we'd done this 10 years ago because we'd have been 10 years deep and much better off financially.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how we got to being where we are today. more by
That
fluke.
that dang LinkedIn changes lives. And
I still stand by. I
all you
dislike
gotta
it,
do
but
is
yes, it's worked.
respond.
Yeah.
Well, so Emma, let's hear your story, your side of the story. So
Well,
how
mine.
is Josh saying yes to potentially franchising get you involved?
Well, I mean, my story is a little bit more black and white, clearly, as you can see from my camera right now. I don't know what's going on here, but it's
But
good at
I'm
hiding the blemishes. Exactly. Well, so I mean, obviously, my story is a little different in the fact that I was a stay-at-home mum for quite a long time with our children, especially when we first moved here from the from the UK. I couldn't really work anyway for the first few years until we got our green cards because we were on a different visa and it only allowed Josh to work. So it kind of fell into my lap that being a stay-at-home mum was the right thing to do, and I was kind of already doing it anyway in the UK just before we moved here. So obviously did that for quite a few years, and I've always worked with animals. We live on a ranch. We have, as I'm looking at my window right now, 4 cows, 3 horses. Don't ask
Wow.
me how many chickens. I've lost count. Ducks, turkeys, you name it. So anyways, roll the clock forward a bit. The girls are older, they're at school, and I started working, and I was working in our local vet clinic. I'd done a few different other clinics before we moved to Decatur, but I'm in a local vet clinic, and Josh had just been laid off, and he's a little down in the dumps, trying to work out what we're going to do. And that's when he found the franchising, and he said to me, "You know what? This is something we could do together. Rather than you going to clinic and working away, we could make this a business together." Now, we're sort of finding out between the two of us who have different skills. I'm more into looking for clients than wanting to recruit, but at the same time, I do a bit of both. But I feel like we're gelling quite well in the fact that we fill in different areas of the business that's needed. So, and likewise, we'll talk about in a moment. We're bringing on new staff. That was kind of me pushing that towards Josh. So
Okay.
we'll get there. So yeah, but yeah, so that's kind of where it seemed like the right thing to do, something we could both be proud of and do together, and not be reliant on somebody else being our employer anymore. And it's scary because, like you said, you lose benefits, but we'd already lost that when he'd lost his job and we're looking for another one. And working for a small clinic in town, they don't offer benefits. So it's not like I had that either. So it's kind of like, well, we're already jumping in the deep end. Let's, see how far we can take this.
I love that. And I love that you bought into Josh's vision, and that it makes a great partnership, and that's so cool. So why Patrice and Associates, Josh?
It was the most complete business in a box. I'm not going to name names of other franchises that I looked at, but one of them got ruled out because I'm colorblind. So it was to do. I would have had to have had color perception because I was going to help people do remodeling on their house, which oddly we've just finished doing our kitchen.
We're just going through
and I had zero input. I like it, but I have no idea what color it is. So that business was ruled out on that, so through no fault of their own. But the business, Patrice just came tailor-made for us. I've got everything I need, and I had everything I need day 0 to be successful on day 31 because we're net 30 for terms. So it was just the right thing, and it had the most appeal and the price point. It wasn't as expensive as some others.
So Emma, tell us, what is Patrice? Because the name doesn't say what they do. So what is Patrice and Associates?
It's the Patrice and Associates is the largest hospitality and restaurant recruitment company in the US. So they, as far as recruitment goes, the bread and butter is the hospitality and catering environment. But having said that, you can go into other areas of recruitment. So if you have a natural platonic relationship, you can get into hedge funds, or you can get into oil companies. You could recruit for anything, but basically we take the work away from somebody that's looking to employ a sous chef, a head chef, a restaurant manager, for example. from having to go through hundreds of resumes, we look for the A+ candidates. That's what Patrice and Associates is well known for, is finding the best person for the job, and then we send them 2 or 3 candidates to interview and ultimately hire, versus having to go through the whole thing. So that's we're
Awesome.
kind of we take the work out of trying to find the right people for the jobs.
And your territory is Fort Worth?
Yes, yeah. Our immediate territory ourselves is downtown Fort Worth. Actually, we span down to Benbrook, and we also go up to White Settlement, I believe, right, Josh? Is that right,
Yes.
or is it Lake Worth? No, White Settlement. Yeah. So it's actually a pretty big area. We've got the stockyards in there, so I'm really looking forward to getting down there and meeting some local restaurant owners and seeing how we can help them. Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
All right. Well, when we get off this call, I have a connection for you, and we're going to talk networking. But let's take a quick break, and we'll come back with Emma and Josh Barber. Are you a corporate renegade? That is someone who is frustrated with the rat race of corporate, or maybe you were recently laid off of your job. Or perhaps you're an entrepreneur looking for your next stream of income. Hi, my name is Tony Harris Taylor, and I want to invite you to have a conversation with me about how franchising, becoming a franchise owner, can take your life and business to the next level. It did for me. I purchased my franchise in 2019, turned around my primary business, and now I want to help others to do the same. Hop on my calendar and let's chat about how franchising can take your life and your business to the next level. Talk to you soon. All right, we are back with Emma and Josh Barber, franchisees with Patrice and Associates. So let's talk networking, right?
Mhm.
So the LinkedIn reach outs was a form of networking. When the gentleman or lady reached out to you, Josh, and here it is, it's changed your life already. And so let's talk about how are you going to utilize networking in order to grow your business. Let's go with Josh.
For sure. So I think we kind of touched on this before the break, in so much that you and I haven't met in person, but LinkedIn is a whatever it is, a social networking business platform thing. So I think networking in any realm of business is key, because if I can help you, it costs me nothing to say, hey Tony, here's someone you could possibly help. It's on you to chase them down. And you mentioned you might have a lead for us. You can give it to us and we do nothing with it. You didn't lose anything. We can chase it down and maybe we make millions at it. So you never know. I would never say there's a bad connection to be made using things like LinkedIn. You may have hundreds of people on there that you don't know and don't speak to, but one of them might be the person that you need to get you to the next thing.
Yeah.
I am socially, in my private life, fairly introverted. I'm not a total introvert. But business-wise, I've learned in the last 20 plus years, you have to be out there and shaking hands, saying hi, touching people over the social networks, and so just in case, because you never know where it might take you. So I think networking is one of the most important things in any level of business, be it top or bottom or franchising. I think networking is a key thing.
Absolutely. And so I'll go ahead and give you the tip right here, and I'm sure you've already looked at it, but the local restaurant association, going to and networking and being a sponsor, which is a form of networking at their associations, so that they will know your name, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you're going to find all your referral partners are right there at the restaurant association. So Emma, whether it's been as a mom or through the veterinary clinic or any other way, how has networking helped you in your life or business?
Oh, well, I mean, definitely when we first moved here from the UK, I would say networking is the way I met my friends, because I didn't know anyone, didn't have family here, not that was close by anywhere. I did have an aunt down in Houston, but that's
Not
a long
close.
way from Texas, from McKinney at the time. that we lived in. And so I joined. There was a local mums club, and it is exactly the same as networking in business. You go and you meet other people and you make contacts, and it gets you out of your shell and gets you moving and meeting people, and your children become sociable through that. So I would say that definitely helped me in my stay-at-home mum era. And then working in the veterinary world, it's actually an oddly small world. You work in one clinic and you kind of bump into other vets that you've worked with before, especially when you're in the ER, which I did for a while. And it does help, because then when you go to another clinic and, oh, we really need a specialist in this, you go, well, I know someone because I've already worked with them. And so you kind of naturally fall into that networking shell. And then same with clients as well, as you're meeting people and advising them on their animal care. It's all just a big, this is that person's name that I recommend, and going around that way.
Correct.
Networking in a positive way, because there's also those people out there that try and slander, not slander, but just say negative things about people, and you never ever want to do that, because it's not nice and it's not fair. So I have experienced some of that in the veterinary world, especially.
Yes. And so, right, we can't be networking and cutting people down, because if you're doing that in front of people, they're like, well, what is she saying about me when I'm not in the room?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So Josh, you mentioned contractors. Say more about that, and that what you all are doing with the contractors.
So it goes back to networking, oddly enough. So I mentioned before, I'm socially introverted, which I'm now about to completely contradict. We're frequent patrons of our local drinking establishment. It's true. There's no point hiding that, right? And in business, you can only exploit what you've got as your unique selling point. So we sound funny. So people are always like, where are you from? It gets tiresome after a while, and I tend to be obtuse when I'm in a social platform, and I'll say I'm from East Texas or from Far East. But we have a lot of friends locally, some of whom are quite young, in their early 20s, that are trying to find their way in the world. Yeah. Some of whom are business owners that want something else to do while their business chugs along on its own. So we were mentioning to friends of ours in our local drinking establishment that we are going to start this up, and we're looking to get contractors because it's a really easy way to make quite a lot of money. And we had 3 of our friends go, I could do that. It's like, yes, you could do that. So 3 of our friends are going to come on and work with us as contractors. The good news is all 3 of them are already self-employed. So the benefits thing is, oh, wow, you're not going to pay me the benefits. I have spoken to some previous colleagues that said, it seems like a really good deal. What benefits do I get? Like, you don't. And then I don't have to do it. But it's not as bad as you think. Once you start looking into things and researching, it's not as scary as the banner of you get no healthcare at all in the US, you'll get no help from anywhere. It's not that bad. Do your research. I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but by all means, talk to someone like you, Tony, and say, I think this is a good idea, but I'm scared about this, because it's probably been thought of by someone much cleverer than I am. So networking, again, got us to having employees, or contractors, sorry, I have to be careful with the IRS there. Yeah. But it's great, because now we've got a method of making some passive income and helping friends of ours, and by association, without trying to belabor the point, they can network out for us as well and get business for us. So it's a win triple.
Yes, absolutely. Now, you said a few nuggets in there, which is what I teach in the world of networking. And number 1 nugget is open your mouth. Just tell people what you're thinking, what you're up to. And they're like, okay, I hear you. The second nugget is you didn't recruit them. They raised their hand. That's the problem that a lot of people have with networking, because they think they have to sell. You don't have to sell. You just tell people what you're doing, what you're working on, and people will self-select and say, I think I can do that, or I think I need that. And it's natural, and it doesn't come off as sleazy, slimy, or weird. So thank you for making my point for me. And that's super exciting. And then who knows where those relationships are going to take you as well. All right, I'm going to ask my next question. I ask all the guests. Emma, what's the biggest drastic step you've ever taken in life or business? And y'all have already said a lot of them, but I'd like to know.
Well, for us in for life, for sure, was moving to the United States from the United Kingdom.
Yes.
Especially at the time, we had an 18-month-old and a 4-year-old. And I was an only child, so I had to up and leave my parents and took away their only grandbabies. And we really did, it was a gamble, but it was one that absolutely paid off because we love our life here in the US, and we are citizens of the United States now, and so are our children. They're, like I mentioned to you before we started, I've now got a freshman about to start high school and a senior at the same time. So they don't, this is their life over here. So that's definitely, for me, the biggest gamble I've ever done in my life. And I think if we can do that, and we've done that together, then there's nothing we can't do with this franchise.
I love it. Love it. Josh, what would you say?
That's a pretty tough one to follow, that. Moving half around the world with a small family, and what did I do that was more risky than that? So I won't. I'll say the same, but I'll use a different example as well. Starting the franchise. So I spent so long thinking this is a terrible idea, and Emma mentioned earlier, when we first started, I thought there's no way we can have anyone work with us. We've got to do this all on our own in a bubble, and very slowly, organically, probably because Emma was watering the plants, but all very organically in my mind came from being that there's no way we're doing this. This is the only way to do this. And then having people, to your point, when we were sitting there talking about what we do, and someone going, I could do that. Well, why don't you do that with us? It's one of those that it's just very, very nicely grown. But with the initial startup phase and saying we're about to pay X number of dollars for this was, I won't cuss, but it was quite frightening.
Yes.
So,
please, you don't cuss. But we get it, right?
Yeah.
And it's not an easy decision. You don't take it lightly. But look at you saying, I wish I had known and done earlier. And
100%.
so someone watching this, listening to this, is thinking the same thing. Wish I had done that earlier, or I need to make a move. And now's the time to explore. It doesn't hurt to have that conversation. Well, listen, you guys, our time has flown. We're already done. So
no, that went fast.
It goes fast. Josh, tell us how to get in touch with you.
So my email address is jbarber@Patrice and Associates, and then phone number is 817-415-1006. And even if it's just advice on a resume or just advice on how to go into the job market, I'm happy to help in any way, shape, or form that I can. So that's my greasy sales pitch for the end.
Well, thank you all so much for trusting me, because you only met with me for 30 minutes. We had an instant, it was like this. By the way, I'm coming to Dallas to a franchise event, so I'll get y'all that information.
Oh, yeah,
in the restaurant space. So y'all need to be there. So
yes.
Stay in the background. I'll get you that information as well. And perfect. I hope to meet you in person real soon. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back with my final thoughts.
Thanks for having us, Tony.
If you think franchising isn't for you, think again. Here's how Multicultural Franchise Connectors is changing the game. At Multicultural Franchise Connectors, we believe in the power of diversity to transform the franchising industry. Our mission? To empower underserved multicultural communities with the knowledge, resources, and connections they need to confidently explore franchising opportunities. Did you know that less than 15% of franchisees are minority-owned? But we're not stopping there. MFC's 4 Paths guide successful business owners in franchising their operations, help potential franchisees interested in purchasing franchise businesses, support business owners to supply their services to franchises, or assist individuals to secure employment opportunities within franchise corporate offices. MFC is designed to break down barriers and open doors. Through comprehensive workshops, mentorship programs, networking events, and expert consultations, we're paving pathways to economic empowerment and community growth. And come 2027, we'll be offering grants to help you secure the financial support you need. Join us today and become part of a thriving multicultural franchise community. Visit multiculturalfranchise.org for more information. Empower your future. Empower your community. Together, we're making franchising dreams a reality.
Welcome back. Wasn't that an enlightening conversation? I just really enjoyed hearing their story, but also how networking is taking their business to the next level. So, shout out to John and Emma for responding to my LinkedIn post. Wow. The other thing that came to light was you don't know what you don't know about franchising. So why don't you download my ebook? Go to drasticfranchise.com, get a copy of my ebook, and learn a little bit more about franchising and hop on my calendar. Who knows? Patrice and Associates is in my portfolio, so I might even be able to place you as a fellow franchisee with that brand. So drasticfranchise.com to download my ebook. Thank you so much for watching. Sharing is caring. So please share this show with your colleagues and let's help a lot of people to change their lives through networking and franchising. This is Tony Harris Taylor saying take a drastic step today for a fantastic tomorrow, and we'll see you next week. Bye.